Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I am Kristin Gutierrez, the Confident Leadership host. I'm a best-selling author, a keynote speaker, and I am a coach helping people grow beyond their role. But more importantly, today I am joined by my good friend and a localization industry veteran, Marina Ilari. So hello, and can you please say hi and tell us about yourself and all this fun stuff?
Hello. I am so excited to be talking to you. It's always such a pleasure to have conversations with you. So my name is Marina Ilari. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years. Started out as a translator working alongside my mother in her company, Terra Translations. I've been the CEO now for 7 years and counting.
I love it. Your story is amazing. And perhaps we will talk about that a little today. But I know that you had made a post on LinkedIn a while back that said, I've been itching to talk about a somewhat taboo topic, failure. Yes. And I'm like, what a great marriage to talk for 20 minutes or so. So I just want to say for anybody watching, thank you so much. Comment. Give us some feedback on the chat. And we are streaming to 4 or 5 different platforms right now. So hopefully they will all show up here. And if they don't, we'll get to you afterwards. But comment and show Marina some support. All right. Awesome.
Who wants to talk about failure, right? Like, I feel like this is so funny. Like, why am today when I was getting ready to do the live, I was like, why am I doing this to myself? Who wants to be talking about their failures on a live? But here I am.
Yes, right. I mean, but the reality is, as we know, growth happens only once we fail.
Yeah. And also, I think, well, there's a very well-known statistic that, that men apply for jobs when they meet only 60% of required qualifications, while women only apply when they meet 100% of qualifications. We always want to be so extremely well prepared, for new challenges to avoid making mistakes. But also the reality is that the best way to learn and to advance in your career is by failing, by making mistakes, right? Like, while you make mistakes, it doesn't feel nice to make mistakes, but those opportunities really mark us and we become more resilient and more aware of the things that we need to improve, right? So you don't know what you don't know. And only by doing it, by tripping over, do you advance in the path towards success, or at least I think so.
I agree wholeheartedly. And everyone, at the end of the day, it's hard because it's humbling. I remember when I was pregnant with my first kid, I went through yoga teacher training. So this has nothing to do with work, but it's like I wasn't the yogi who would stand on my head and do crazy acrobatic stunts in the middle of class, but I was an advanced yogi. Talk about being humbled and not being able to even get out of child's pose. I was always wondering why people were like laying down in corpse pose the entire class until I got pregnant. And because I had to take so much yoga while I was learning to be a teacher, I wasn't able to not go to yoga because I didn't feel good. So I literally lay through all of the class. And that too is practicing, this different version of how to succeed. And so there's so many lessons for me in that experience, like learning to be humble, learning to put your ego aside, that actually transpires to we're in corporate and we are leading teams, or we're individual contributors and we're doing things we don't know how to do and we're failing, or we're trying to innovate and we're failing. So tell me one of your favorite stories.
Oh my goodness, I have so many. Well, one I can tell you where I failed right out of the bat is when I finished my translation degree. I tried to get the American Translators Association certification. And I went ahead, I felt so confident as a translator. I went ahead and just took the exam. Of course, I was going to pass it. I'm an amazing translator. There, right off the bat, not pass. And I was so embarrassed that I didn't pass the exam. I was like, how is this possible? Like, I consider myself to be a really good translator. How did I not pass this exam? Of course, it was written at the time, so you had to write it by hand. Not ideal. And also you were using like actual dictionaries instead of like, the digital things you nowadays use, right? But that really gave me a big learning right there, because I was like, okay, what did I fail at? What do I need to improve at? And I was able to ask for, get the corrected test and get for feedback. And that's how I learned, like, oh, okay, so I need to work on this. I should have like a dictionary for this specifically. And then eventually I ended up passing the test, but no, like I prepared for it. I prepared for it really well. And only by failing and seeing my mistake was I able to like prepare well for this. But translation tests are another thing, because throughout my career, I also failed so many tests, but every test I learned something, because this is something really important, is you need to ask for feedback. Like, why did you not pass? Like, can you get the corrections, or can you get some sort of any type of feedback so that you can learn from it? If you don't learn from it, you cannot get better. And throughout my career, I learned so much by seeing where I had failed, getting feedback. I became an expert. I will be shocked if I didn't pass the test at this point, because I became really an expert. I know what to ask. I know what to look for. Another story about a test is we were doing this test for a very important company. We were really excited to be doing this test. We send our translation, and then they come back saying, well, actually, the terminology you use is not what we use internally. So we won't, you didn't pass. And we're like, well, we didn't have a glossary of their internal terminology. That is why we use like official terminology. Like, this is our sources. This is the terminology we use. Like, if we had a glossary about, your internal terminology, we can of course apply it. And they came back to us and said, well, you should have asked for a glossary. If you had asked for a glossary, we would have given it to you. And because you need to know you need to know all these things. You need to know everything in order to present yourself for a test, right? And asking for, a terminology list didn't cross our minds at the time, because it felt like, oh, we should know where to look for terminology, right? And if they wanted us to use a glossary, they would have given it to us. We didn't think of asking for it. And that was fair, because never again did I do that. Like, always, I always ask, like, is there anything else that we can use? Like, do you have an internal glossary that we can apply to the translation? Things like that. So just big learning moment, and only learned that by failing. And I eventually ended up doing a webinar and writing articles on passing translation tests. I consider myself an expert at this point after 20 years. I know how to do it. I know how to do it right, but only by failing did I learn.
There's so much there to unpack, right? So first was the feedback, right? I want to make sure we pause there, because there's two things to consider as it relates to feedback. If you're a leader, you should instill in your team. So you're the top leader, right? Or let's say you're a VP level leader. No matter the leadership role you have, you should instill in your team the concept of feedback being a gift. And like, you should create like this like workshop or activity, or like ongoing, because feedback often makes us feel cringy, right?
Yeah.
I don't like to hear the constructive feedback, and not everybody's adept at delivering good feedback. And so the other thing is, if you're an individual contributor, even if your boss or leader doesn't have this culture of feedback, it's your responsibility. So you're hearing this live, right? It's your responsibility to create that for yourself. And that is then therefore how you start to lead beyond your role. That's a whole nother topic. But I wanted to pause on the feedback thing, because it's so critical, right?
Yes. Like you said, it's a gift. You have to grab it and like use it to get better.
Yes, for sure. So if you're a leader, implement it in your team. And if you don't know how, like, chat, and I would say, like, chat below, or, provide some commentary here. Like, I also want to know what people watching, what's your biggest failure, or what's a significant failure? Because Marina just said the second thing we'll go to, which is like how to pass tests and stuff, right? And you'll never do it again, because once we do make a mistake a certain way, that is where the growth happens, because then we're like, oh no, that is in my brain. Now I know we need to get better.
Right. And it inspired me also to share those learnings, right? Like to share, okay, like you don't have to maybe go through all the rejected tests. Like here I'm giving you your learnings, and usually, that helps you too, learning from other people's mistake, not just your own.
Yeah.
That's important too.
Yeah.
But I think that the main thing with failure, and is the fear of making a mistake, right? Because fear can really paralyze you. And there's this phrase, it's everything you ever wanted is on the other side of fear.
Ooh, I like that.
Yes, I don't know who said that, but I always remember that phrase. I think it's really nice because it really, is that feeling of not getting too comfortable and daring to do it, daring to fail, even though it's uncomfortable, because that's how you grow and that's how you learn.
Right. And the other thing that counteracts that sentiment is paralysis by overanalysis. Like, tend to get in our own way and overthink and then instead of actually acting on it because we're fearful we'll make a mistake, we have decided to like pause and overanalyze, and now that has paralyzed us from doing anything. I gotta say this out loud, it's actually a bigger failure to not do anything at all than simply do the thing and learn as you go and ask for help.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yes. I love what you're saying. Yeah. And many times you will get like the other, I think you could call them failures, but there are so many times that people rejected a proposal that I made or decided to go with another company instead of hire my company, like maybe you consider them as those as failures, but something important to keep in mind is if you're always giving your best, it can be no. It can be a no. It can be a no, but always think about no, not yet. Okay, they're saying no, but it's a no yet. We'll see what happens in the future. And I have been in that position before. Like I've been in front of a client I was dying to work with and having them say like, no, we're going to go to someone else, but keep in touch. And, I keeping in touch and continuing that relationship to eventually get that opportunity down the line, not giving up on that opportunity. Yeah. So that's another thing, let failure discourage you from continuing. Right. If you have a strong vision, from continuing and persevering, because the yes might be down the line, right. Continue.
It is always a not right now I mean, not always, but like typically, right? In a sales role, I coach organizations on sellers mindset, because the reality is, especially in localization, depending on the size of your company, people are wearing the sales hat, even if their title isn't sales. You've got project management, you've got finance, you've got HR, like anybody who's interacting with customers for whatever reason, there are opportunities to upsell, cross-sell, ask the difficult questions or receive the feedback. Now we're kind of going down a different path. But the point is, like, if everyone can adopt a seller's mindset, then there's this concept of, to your point, being able to accept no might mean that there's like something else. So my whole theme as a professional is always ask one more question. And that is relevant to the thing we were talking about earlier with like the translation glossary and like, I didn't ask for it, right? You were telling us and. So now you all know to ask for this, to ask for that, right? But like always, you have permission. I tell my clients, like, you have permission to ask another question or to ask, like, if it's not this. So if they tell you no, to your point now, if they say no, then you should go back and say, why not? But in a really great way. That's an art that you can develop. You can ask your leader, if it's Marina, like you can ask for help from your C-level, you can ask for help from your direct boss, but it's like, how do I go back to this client who denied my RFP or told me they were going with another? And how do we get the feedback from them? Because
yes, that is essential. You need to know why they didn't choose or why the proposal was not accepted or the RFP was not where they wanted it. You need that information in order to apply the learnings for the future.
I know. Yes, you do. And that's all part of failure. So it's interesting that like failure is sometimes us falling flat on our face or lying throughout an entire yoga class because we just can't do anything else like that. Ego sometimes feels like failing, right? But like growing, learn to, and if you are a sales professional or in a role where you know that you're selling, to your other point, there's this concept of go for no. Was like, why don't we turn the no's into something that we expect so that it's not discouraging when we try to call somebody and they're not interested, or they reply to us that now isn't a good time. Why don't we assume that we're going to have 100 no's before we get a yes? And to like just flip it on its head, right? So no matter what your role is in the organization, there's this concept of failing, and I kind of touched on a ton of like,
I love that. I love what you're saying about the no's, because again, I had so many no's in my career. If I had gotten discouraged by all those no's, we wouldn't be the company that we're today. Really, it wouldn't have happened. There's another failure story. I didn't know if I should talk about this one because it's kind of embarrassing. But I might as well share it because I did get really good learning from this. So it's about public speaking. Public speaking gave me like a really good learning experience, so to say. So it was when was this? Like maybe 3 years back. I was invited to be part of a panel, and it was a video game conference. And I was given a very vague idea of what they were going to ask me. So I didn't really know. I felt very unprepared for the panel, which is never a good feeling, you know. The room was packed with people. The venue was a lot more intimidating than I had anticipated. And then I met the other panelists. They seemed like extremely professional. I started second guessing myself, you know, that dreadful feeling that, oof, perhaps I'm not ready for this. What are people going to think? You know, are they going to think I'm an imposter here? So yeah, and what happened is the moderator fired the first question my way. And that was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. But looking back, I'm thankful for it, and I'm gonna tell you why. So the moderator asked me a very simple question, which was basically if I could share with the audience how I had gotten into the video game industry. So you're right, probably the easiest question you can answer, right? You know,
yes, you have.
One thing you should know is like who you are, what you do. But yeah, so I answered with. I started answering the question, and then I came up with a joke in the moment, and I told the joke out of the blue, but that improvisation completely threw me off, and suddenly my brain went blank. Like I had forgotten what the question was, what I was supposed to answer. I basically forgotten who I was, what I was doing there on that stage. It was such a terrifying sensation. I actually felt I was going to die there, like in front of 200 people. I really can only describe the scene in my head as me like standing in front of my brain and being like, give me something, like throw me a bone. And my brain being like, no, we have nothing, crickets.
What was the joke? Do you remember?
It was something I joked about, like that I was originally from Argentina, but actually, you know, I had lived in the US, like, and I consider myself to be a Midwestern because I, you know, lived here. It was something silly about where I was from, but that I also was from there where the conference was. I don't know, something stupid that I came up with that I thought was like funny, but then like completely threw me off. But the very important lesson that I learned from that really dreadful experience is that I didn't die from it. And I know it sounds crazy, but the fear of public speaking is the number one fear that we have as human beings. And there are scientific studies about that. We fear more public speaking than dying. How mind-blowing is that? Like, we are more afraid of public speaking than dying. And it was a valuable lesson for my brain, you know, that I could go blank on stage, completely embarrass myself, still survive. Life went on. My career was not over, you know? And you might think that after that experience, I was like, I'm done with public speaking. I don't want to ever do it again. But actually the opposite happened because it was liberating to know that I could do it and I could survive it.
Yes, I love that. I mean, I can empathize with so much of your story because of getting in front of your brain and then all of a sudden overthinking something, even on a live like this, or at a panel discussion, like at a conference like you were at, and or making really bad jokes that you think are funny and like all don't land. You're like, okay.
All for humor, though. I think humor is amazing. I should definitely use it.
Right. And then like the bigger the room, the more intimidating. And then you obviously touched on one of my favorite topics, which is imposter syndrome, because we all have it every single day. And the important thing there is knowing that you won't die when you're public speaking or doing the thing that you so much fear as it relates to your job and your role and life things.
Yeah. And the more you do it, the less fearful you get. Because you get more inspired, you get more comfortable, and suddenly it's not that terrifying. You're not like shaking, like you can control your voice, like things, little steps like that. But it's truly the more you do, the better you get. I recently met, he has this Netflix show about cooking, and he was saying that he was when he was promoting the show, he was saying like it's like Anthony Bourdain's cooking show if he was afraid of everything. Because he considers himself to be a really fearful person. But he said, what I learned during the show and doing all these crazy things is that the more I did it, the less fear I had. And I think that's a powerful lesson there too, right? Like you get more comfortable by getting uncomfortable.
You do. I mean, this is good. I was going to say like, let's wrap, but like so many good nuggets here. And you get uncomfortable, or you get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? What's the thing you said is on the other side of fear? Like, I know that quote, I can't.
Everything you want is on the other side of fear.
Like paralysis by overanalysis, always ask one more question, go. So much great. And you have permission, whether you're a project manager, whether you're a CEO, whether you're a salesperson, marketing, like you have permission to ask. Whether an internal colleague who said no, about like, no, we're not going to look at that innovative idea, right? Or the client saying, no, we're not going to select you for this particular project. Like you have permission to ask why or ask for feedback. And then let's end there, because if you're an individual contributor and also if you're a leader in whatever capacity, like it's your responsibility to create a culture of feedback, because feedback is what, my friend? A gift. Okay, so any closing thoughts or any plugs for your business? The floor is yours for a minute and then we'll wrap up.
Oh my goodness. No, nothing. It's just lovely to talk to you. Thank you everyone for listening. I hope you got inspired to do that thing that you're afraid of doing, because you can do it.
Yes, we can do hard things.
You can do it. And if you feel you can do it, like act it out. Act like you can do it, like play a part.
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. And now they say that it should be changed as fake it till you become it, right? But I like it. I like that too. Yeah. I like that concept.
Oh, this is so fun. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for humbling yourself and sharing your stories. We really appreciate you. And if you don't already follow Marina on LinkedIn, you're missing out, because she puts out amazing videos. And I just love your content and I love what you do.
Thank you so much. Yeah. It's always a pleasure, Kristin.
Okay, see you soon.